MLB Evo is an important term for this video. It has nothing to do with Major League Baseball, instead having to do with architecture, namely platform architecture. This Audi SQ8 is part of the second largest automaker in the world by sales volume, the Volkswagen Group, who sold 9.2 million vehicles in 2023. That's quite an impressive figure. Volkswagen, like every single car company, uses platform architectures as a cost-saving measure in order to sell multiple vehicles under a single construction method. It just makes their manufacturing a lot easier. They can do this across multiple models and, in Volkswagen's case, across multiple brands because they have so many. So the MLB Evo platform that underpins this Audi SQ8 also underpins vehicles like the Volkswagen Touareg, Porsche Cayenne, Bentley Bentayga, and Lamborghini Urus. So today we're going to take a look at this 2024 Audi SQ8, which has received a few updates for this year, see how it fits into Volkswagen's MLB Evo lineup of cars, and see how it is. Now, if you're looking at buying or leasing a new car, but you're not quite sure which vehicle is right for you, I can help you out by curating a customized list of vehicle recommendations that fit your needs. Visit drakemoscow.com/buying a car to see how I can help you find a new car. Now, not only do many SUVs across the Volkswagen Group use the MLB Evo architecture, but many SUVs in Audi's own lineup use the MLB Evo architecture. Q7, SQ7, Q8, SQ8, and RSQ8 are all underpinned by this same platform. Now, the Q8 vehicles are much more similar to the vehicles sold across Volkswagen Group's lineup, like Cayenne, Urus, and Bentayga, because it is a two-row midsize SUV, whereas the Q7 is a bit larger as a three-row. So how then do we fit this SQ8 into this lineup of vehicles? Well, quite simply, it is the cheapest way to get a V8. And that is a good thing. You see, the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 found in every single Volkswagen Group product powered by a V8 is an excellent engine. In this SQ8, it makes a clean 500 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque. It also happens to be a mild hybrid. What does that mean? Well, it has a rather annoying start-stop system that seems to cut the engine off at about 2 miles an hour, making it rather difficult to come to a stop smoothly. Not quite a fan of that part. But it also has cylinder deactivation. So when you are cruising down the highway at a constant speed and the engine doesn't need all 8 cylinders to maintain the car's velocity, it will cut half of the cylinders in order to save on fuel. This car gets an impressive 21 mpg on the highway, making it a rather good road trip machine, and it's very impressive for a car that again makes 500 horsepower and that sounds like this. Now, I say it's the cheapest way to get a V8 in Volkswagen Group's MLB Evo lineup of SUVs, and that's true, but it's still not very cheap. It starts just under $100,000, undercutting the Porsche Cayenne S in the V8 price wars of MLB Evo SUVs. And this model you see here is spec'd to $127,000 because it is a fully loaded prestige model with all the options ticked. I think it looks quite beautiful. The looks are what is new for 2024. It has a reworked grille, and I really do like the black surround of the grille. I was never a fan of how the last generation SQ8 had kind of the matte silver surround of the grille. I didn't think that looked quite as good. This and the black optics package is better. The grille has also been made a little wider down here, and you get new laser headlights and these new daytime running light signatures. Audi has always killed it in the lighting game. They were the first to bring LED daytime running lights to a production vehicle with the Audi R8, the first gen Audi R8, and these are also very cool. You can customize the signature of the daytime running lights. There are 4 different options to give your SQ8 a little more personal flair. And the last bit that's been updated on the outside is this taillight section, which is now just a continuous bar that has this black accent and then the taillights. It reminds me a bit too much of the facelifted Volkswagen Atlas here in the US, which also just has a thick bar across the back with some black accents and taillights, although they do play a cool lighting animation when you unlock the car, and they are customizable just like the daytime running lights up front. Climbing into the SQ8, we can see that even though it is smaller than the Q7, it is still quite spacious back here. I at 6'2", when I sit all the way upright, my head just barely brushes the ceiling. I do fit. I'd say that's a little bit more headroom than in the BMW X6 M60i that I drove earlier this year, but elsewhere it is very spacious. Plenty of knee room behind my ideal driving position, plenty of foot room. When I fold down this center armrest, it reveals a pair of pretty small cup holders. All of the cup holders in this car are pretty small. My 24-ounce Hydro Flask barely fits in the ones up front, but we also have 4-zone climate control, which is nice to see, and heated out footboard seats for this second row. We also have automatic peasant blockers, which is awesome to see. They are frameless and just rise from the bottom of the window. It's pretty cool. I can also control the right side one as the left passenger, and the left passenger can control the right one, which is cool so that you can get ultimate protection from your peasants no matter where you are sitting in the back. We have a tiny little compartment in the door too, and map pockets. You can appreciate the panoramic sunroof and this suede headliner. It's also comfortable back here too. I can recline, or well, raise the seat a little upright, I guess, or recline it a little more. Doesn't move that much. But I, at 6'2", again, very comfortable sitting behind my ideal driving position, very spacious. This is a great two-row midsize SUV in terms of the size and space offered to rear seat passengers. But when you're spending $127,000 on a performance SUV, you're probably gonna sit up front. And I'm gonna start by closing the door. It has such a nice solid thud to it, even though it is a frameless window. That just goes to show the impeccable build quality of this Audi. Everything feels so firm and so secure. When you press the buttons on the steering wheel, I'm gonna lean in so you can hear it. It's so satisfying. It's so well built, high quality. I absolutely love how everything feels in this interior. It feels top notch build quality. I think some modern, especially Mercedes products, feel a bit plasticky and a bit creaky and not quite put together very well. This Audi has none of that. This Audi feels very premium. I absolutely love it. The window switches too, they have a really nice click to them. I absolutely love it. This is not Audi's newest and latest interior though, and I'm actually okay with that. I really love this setup. You have dual touchscreens for your center stack, more of an infotainment system that does your CarPlay and Android Auto, and a lower screen that does your climate controls. I wish these were physical controls, but they are haptic touch buttons, which means you kind of have to give them a little bit more of a press, which makes it a bit easier while driving to know that you have done what you intended to do. It's a little easier to use, not my favorite, but better than being a traditional touchscreen. On your instrument cluster side, it's fully digital. Audi kind of pioneered the virtual cockpit display, and this SQ8 has one of them. Very crisp, very clear. All of these screens are, and the overall design is minimal. It's high tech, but it's also very clean. I also love these Bang & Olufsen stereo speakers that rise up as you turn the car on. That's a really nice touch. And the car plays a nice little sound, a nice little tune when you turn the car on too. I think this is a very premium interior. It's not quite as flashy as BMW's newest interior on the X6 M60i that I drove earlier this year, but it still feels very good. And then once you get this car on the road, well, if you have any misgivings of this interior, which I don't think you would, but if you had any, you forget those immediately. Also, I have massaging seats, which is pretty good. Let's get this car on the road because that's where it really excels. All right, driving the 2024 Audi SQ8. Now, earlier this year, I spent a week with the new 2024 BMW X6 M60i, which is another German coupe SUV of mid-tier performance, so not the full-on performance version, but not the entry-level one either, that also received a facelift for the 2024 model year. And so it's very interesting now to step into this SQ8 to see the differences between those two vehicles. Both of them are powered by twin-turbo V8s, a 4-liter in the SQ8's case and a 4.4-liter in the BMW's case. The BMW makes a little more power, 523 horsepower versus 500 in this SQ8. And I do think the X6 overall was just a bit sharper, a bit more dynamic. This is a very fun car to drive, this SQ8. I actually really love the balance Audi has struck in terms of it being very fun when you put your foot down and sounding excellent and giving you plenty of get up and go to have so much fun with this car, but also being so comfortable and such a good daily driver. I mentioned that this car has 23-inch rims, but it still rides really well. Over uneven surfaces, you definitely notice that the suspension is a bit stiff, and I think the wheel size is a big factor in that, but it still is overall a very comfortable car, a very good daily driver. The X6 though, it was a bit more dynamic. When you put your foot down, that engine is very methodical in the way it delivers power. the shifts were exact and it would just rocket you forward. I'm in my individual mode now, but if I go up into dynamic mode, when I put my foot down, I think the shifts are just a tiny bit delayed compared to what that X6 M60 offered. Again, this still is a very dynamic vehicle, but I think Audi just went with a slightly softer tuning for this car than BMW did with the X6 M60. That is the biggest difference I noticed. Not saying that the X6 wasn't comfortable, because it is. I just think that car felt a bit sharper than this. But this car really does excel at daily driving, I think, because you can have so much fun with it. It doesn't let you down in terms of putting your foot down and getting power, and like the sounds this car makes, everything is excellent, but it's still so comfortable. It is also so quiet in here, whisper quiet. Even though we have frameless windows, it still is so very hushed. I'm very impressed by the sound deadening in this vehicle, and I think that really goes to show just the excellent build quality that comes through. I do think this is a tad above the build quality in the modern BMWs I've driven. Those vehicles are not bad, but this is just a little bit above those, and definitely above modern Mercedes. Everything is so tight and well fitting in here. Pressing the buttons on the steering wheel, everything just has such a nice click to it. The surfaces are all very pristine. I am very pleased with the interior of this vehicle. I do have a couple of complaints though. If I go up into the automatic mode, you definitely notice a big difference between the drive modes in this vehicle. The steering gets a lot lighter as you go into more of the auto and comfort modes. The transmission takes a lot longer to downshift when you want power. So you definitely get different characteristics in the drive modes, which is nice. In comfort mode, the suspension becomes much floatier. It almost bounces. It's a little too much of a bounce for me. I have my individual mode set up with the firmer suspension, firmer steering, and a little more lighter on the engine response, because it is pretty quick in other settings. But this is a mild hybrid system, and as I mentioned, it has a pretty intense engine stop-start system. So there's a red light down there. If we hit it, I will try to demonstrate it. Basically, and I've driven other Audis that have had this, and I've noticed that they are difficult to come to a stop smoothly when you have, when it's trying to cut the engine off. When you come to a stop, it will turn the engine off, not quite at 0 miles an hour. A lot of cars wait until you're at a full stop and then turn the engine off. This one tries to beat you to it. So we're about to come to a stop here. Let's see. 3 miles, 2 miles. Okay, that time it actually waited until we're at a stop. Murphy's Law, of course, it's not going to do it when I'm talking about it. But it does make coming to a stop quite difficult. There are times, especially when you're in stop and go traffic, where the engine will really eagerly turn off when you're not really actually coming to a stop. You're just momentarily resting your velocity, let's say, and then accelerating again. And the eagerness of the start-stop system to turn off and then need to turn back on definitely delays you pulling off from a stop. The X6 M60 was also a mild hybrid system with its 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. I didn't really notice an issue in that vehicle. This one, like just there, the car lurches a little bit because it's so eager to turn off. You're no longer getting propulsion through the wheels. It will coast a little bit with the engine off, but it doesn't like pull you forward like an automatic transmission vehicle does when you're in drive and you have your foot off the brake. So it will coast a little bit, but it can be pretty jarring, and that is a little upsetting. It makes driving this vehicle in stop and go traffic just a bit difficult. That being said, I think you would kind of get used to it, and you are able to lessen its intensity by really coming to a smooth stop. Just know it's a tad more difficult than I think it could be, or than it needs to be. Yeah, that was just not a smooth stop, even though I wasn't just slamming on the brakes. All of a sudden the engine cut off and the car kind of jolts. It's not the best feeling. Otherwise, the mild hybrid system is fine. The cylinder deactivation, you never notice it. It's only when you're cruising, and it helps you get better fuel economy. And when you put your foot down, all the cylinders roar to life. It's actually it's a pretty good implementation of that system. And in terms of fuel economy, I've been averaging about 13.5, 14 miles per gallon in predominantly city driving, which is actually pretty good for the style of driving that I tend to be doing in a super dense urban area. Something like the Hyundai Santa Fe, which is a 4-cylinder vehicle, turbocharged 2-point-something liter 4-cylinder. That vehicle achieved 16.5 mpg in my time with it. So this car obviously makes a lot more power and is getting not that worse fuel economy. It sounds really good. I love this engine. Let's go up into comfort mode now. See how the car feels in this setting. I have noticed it is very floaty. For long road trips, I think this might be the best setting. The steering does get really light, too light for my preferences, and I've actually noticed it can be maybe a little too floaty. The suspension could be a bit nauseating if you tend to get car sick. But overall, the feeling of the Audi SQ8 is one of purpose. You feel very in command of this vehicle. The 4-liter twin-turbo V8 making 500 horsepower sounds good all of the time, pulling away from a stop. Just the idle of it, the burble. It sounds, I love how this engine sounds. And when you put your foot down, oh, you get just such thrusting power. It just feels so good to accelerate this car hard. You feel powerful in this vehicle because of how much power this engine is making, even though it is a little down on power from something like an X6 M60, and you kind of notice it. At the same time, you don't miss it because this is still plenty of power, and I absolutely love how this car feels driving down the road. And at the same time, it's so comfortable. This is an all-around super impressive vehicle. I love that you can get this engine at this price point. Again, this is the cheapest way in a 2-row to get this 4-liter twin-turbo V8 from Volkswagen Group. You can also get it in the SQ7, makes the same amount of horsepower as this SQ8, and that's a little bit cheaper than this vehicle. And I have the chance to drive that vehicle next month, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that car differs from this SQ8. But I love this vehicle also because, unlike I think the X6, which really pioneered this coupe SUV segment, and unlike the Mercedes GLE coupe, this Q8 and the Q8 family of vehicles are attractive in my opinion. I do not find them ugly as I do most of their competition. Audi really nailed the design of this vehicle. They were able to produce a slightly more elegant, slightly more raked back to SUV while still making it look really good. This is a very handsome vehicle, more handsome than its 3-row brother, the Q7, in my opinion, which is the only time I would say that about one of these coupe SUVs. Like the BMW X5, I think is better looking than the X6. So Audi overall did an excellent job with this car. I'm very impressed, and I don't think you are going to miss any of the power that this lacks over the competition, nor do I think you're going to miss the power it lacks over something like an RSQ8 or an Urus. Obviously, those are much more intense vehicles. If you are just looking for a really awesome daily driver that has more than enough power, this SQ8 is going to be a great car for you. It's also important to note that something like the Mercedes-Benz GLE Coupe 53 AMG, I didn't do that order correct, but it's a crazy long name anyways, doesn't have a V8. So it's this and the Beamer that have 8 cylinders, and both of the engines are excellent. I actually got a little bit better fuel economy in the BMW, even though it makes more power. But I absolutely love the ambiance of this cabin. Everything feels so clean and purposeful. It is a little older in here than the new X6, because the X6 got an updated interior where this Q8 did not, this SQ8 did not. So this steering wheel has been around for a long time. It's also not a heated steering wheel, which is a little annoying on this $127,000 car. I wish they had put a heated steering wheel option. Audi's always kind of been a little bit weird about which models get heated steering wheels and not. But honestly, the technology is fine. It's more than adequate. I don't love the haptic touchscreens, but they're better than normal touchscreens, and I'm not too peeved about that. Their virtual cockpit display has always been excellent. The speakers in here are so good. The massaging seats are also really good. Very impressed by them, and the seats themselves are just really comfortable. So overall, an excellent vehicle. Not quite as flashy on the interior as that new X6 M60, but honestly, some of BMW's modern infotainment systems and stuff can be a bit overwhelming. This is definitely a bit simpler. You still have CarPlay, Android Auto, all of that. And I think this looks better, drives just about as nice, and is an all-around great package. So that's the 2024 Audi SQ8. For being the poor man's Lamborghini Urus, it still offers you a lot of vehicle. It has an awesome engine that gives you as much performance as you would ever need out of a car of this size, and it's still super comfortable and super efficient. Even if you can afford the RSQ8, which makes more power and is even more aggressive, I would urge you to test drive this vehicle because it gives you almost all of the performance of that car while still being a very comfortable daily driver. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.